Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second day of Learning Labs for ANH Academy Week 2022. My name is Elena Martinez, and I'll be the manager for this session. Thank you so much for taking part in the conference. We look forward to a robust and interactive session today. Before we get going, I just want to remind you that you can find the program and materials from the conference on the ANH Academy website. I've put the URL in the chat. So thank you so much for joining, and I will pass it over to Rosaline to get us going.
Super, thank you very much, Elena, and very nice to connect with all of you here. I will also share my screen. And I'm very happy to welcome you to this learning lab on the Food Systems Dashboard and the Innovative Food System Solutions Portal as new tools for exploring food systems data and innovations. And to emphasize, they are both completely open access tools. So the websites are here and we will be exploring them during the session together. So a very welcome on behalf of the teams of these two portals, and these have been growing efforts among a group of partners. The Food Systems Dashboard has been led by Jess Fentel from Johns Hopkins University and by GAIN, with a growing number of partners. And the IFSS, the Innovative Food System Solutions Portal, has also been led by GAIN and the Alliance of Biodiversity and CIAT, and also with an increasing number of overlapping partners with the Food Systems Dashboard. And so today we have a team here from both efforts. We have Quinn, Christina, Alexa, Katja, and Anna from the Food Systems Dashboard team, and we have Heather and Françoise from the Innovative Food System Solutions Portal team, and me also sitting with both teams. So, and we also are available also afterwards, and yeah, we are very happy to do this jointly as a team. So on behalf of all of us, very welcome to this session. And don't hesitate to put any questions, comments, or reflections in the chat while we go through it. And there are other opportunities further to speak up as well. So just to kind of structure the introduction, it's what are we trying to learn in this section, in this learning lab. The first learning objective is really to understand what a food systems framework entails and how using such a framework. Then to understand the context and the functions of the food systems dashboard that uses and is built upon a food systems framework. And then to learn how to use the food systems dashboard and visualizations to undertake exploratory analysis and how such exploratory analysis can support decisions and moving forward, and then also learn how to use the Innovative Food System Solutions Portal to explore, share, and bundle new ideas, solutions, and pathway to actions, and how this links to the food system. Yeah, and so these are the learning objectives for today. And for this, we will first have a short introduction to the dashboard, and we will have an exploratory exercise for which we will do breakout groups, and then an open Q&A and also reflections. Then we do an intro to the Innovative Food System Solutions Portal and its complementarity to the Food Systems Dashboard, and then to a second exploratory exercise in the breakout groups, and then again Q&A. So it's a very interactive sessions, and also the chat is open all the time for any comments or questions or clarifications. Now, we also first want to learn from you, and also during this exercise we want to also learn from you, as both platforms are continuously being improved. So we also want to learn where you come from and some of your background. So we would like to invite you to go to this menti.com link, and the link will be put in the chat, or you can scan the barcode or go to menti.com and put the code. So you can directly use this link, you can use the barcode, or you can use menti.com and go to this. Okay, fantastic. We see already a lot of different things coming up. Zoonosis, food price. So you can reflect also for yourself a little bit, what are the more surprising things that are coming up for you here? What were you expecting that others were going to put and what did you not directly expect maybe. Yeah, and we can take these reflections on later on. So with these initial introductions, or kind of breaking the ice and seeing what are some of your some of your background and type of indicators that you would like to monitor to understand your food system context, I'll give the word to Quinn to go to kick off the introduction to the food systems dashboard.
Thanks so much, Ro, for that great introduction, and I'm really excited for this learning lab. It looks like we've got a lot of different backgrounds, so I'm looking forward to spending the next couple hours with you. This presentation is kind of just meant to give you guys just some background on what the idea was behind the dashboard, and kind of what motivated us to begin this work. I'll start just with this, why do food systems matter? And I'm sure this is nothing new for this audience. As we know, poor diet quality is a leading cause of mortality, but there's also been increased attention on the role of food systems in planetary health, and still perhaps the traditional objective of food systems, improving economic outcomes and livelihoods. So food systems are being called on to address a variety of challenges: climate change, malnutrition, economic inequity, which is on the one hand demanding, but because the food system is a common driver of all of these challenges, also presents an opportunity. However, capitalizing on that opportunity really requires a systems approach, and for this approach to also link with policies. So taking a step backwards, just, what are food systems? And, I'm agnostic in terms of what's the best definition of food systems. I'm sure there are a lot of different ones out there. We don't need to pick a winner, but the idea here is just to kind of share one with you, the interconnected system of everything and everybody that influences and is influenced by the activities involved in bringing food from farm to fork and beyond. And there's this framework here on the right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but personally, I find this definition, slightly overwhelming, and also the framework very informative, but also a little overwhelming. And one of the issues is just all of this complexity. Once we're defining food systems as everything and everybody, it becomes kind of unwieldy and difficult to know kind of where should we start. Meanwhile, back over in policy lands, policymakers are kind of in the dark on how their food systems are performing, where the risks are, and where they should really focus policies and interventions on. So there's lots of global commitments now to sustainable development, nutrition, and environmental health, but kind of an absence of tools to inform the concrete steps that should be taken to achieve those goals. And there were so many helpful food systems frameworks that arrived, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. We had the HLPE report. There was some great work from the GLOPAN panel on agriculture and food systems. A lot of new ways of thinking about the food environment and its different dimensions. And we thought with the dashboard that the next logical step would be to attach data to these frameworks, so we can kind of start rolling up our sleeves a little bit, just taking those initial steps. So this is an adapted version of the framework that we have used in the dashboard. It's a little more simple than the framework I showed you a couple of slides ago, but the idea was just to really include the primary food systems components. So here we have food supply chains, food environments, and consumers, as well as the major outcome areas nutrition and environment, that's what we have currently in the dashboard. We're kind of working towards those other outcomes that you see listed there, the economic and social equity outcomes. And then the external drivers, and you can see kind of within each of these components, there's different buckets that are kind of describing the different elements within those different components. And we were pretty much looking to attach indicators to describe each of those different elements. And so the advantage is, from a systems perspective, is by bringing this data together in one place, we can better understand the interlinkages in the food system. For example, you can take almost any food systems related challenge, and there's demand side and supply side constraints. So maybe fruit and vegetable intake, consumers don't all recognize their health benefits, so don't consume them as much as they should. In many countries, you look at the food environment and they're very expensive. And in supply chains, maybe you're experiencing a lot of post-harvest losses along the supply chains. So with this dashboard, we're kind of looking at all of that and also looking across different outcome areas. So for nutrition and health, allowing you to kind of visualize that data side by side and perhaps identify some trade-offs and synergies. Very few countries do well on everything. Almost none of them do. So, there are both successes and challenges to be celebrated and or dealt with, and that's kind of a little bit of what we'll be delving into today. Now, this is kind of what I was describing, where we were identifying, high quality indicators to attach to those different buckets. And this is kind of a work in progress. And you can see that, some areas are much more well described than others. And I would say that I think everybody knows that there are data gaps, but we've also found that there is a lot of data out there, and the advantage here is to kind of bring it all into one place. So the dashboard is kind of about curating the data that's out there and also framing it in a way that is useful for people in informing policies. And I should say that, that the data and indicators that are out there are also increasing every year. So before I hand it over to Christina to kind of give you guys a demonstration of the food system, this is kind of our homepage, and, we've kind of focused on these 3 Ds, which are describing, diagnosing, and deciding. The describe is really getting at that idea that the policymakers are in the dark, so we have these this complex food systems, but let's take those initial steps of at least bringing this data together so we can start to talk about where we might have risks and what some solutions might be. Alexa will talk about the diagnose work that we're doing, which is kind of still evolving. And you guys today will kind of be looking at the decisions that might be made based on those previous. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Christina.
Thanks a lot, Quinn. And what I'll do now is give you all just a brief tour of the dashboard. We'll walk through the different functionalities and sort of see what some of the ones that we'll explore today in small group activities. So let's take a look. Okay, super. So the food systems dashboard, here it is. Basic idea, as Quinn said before the dashboard, if you were trying to figure out what your food systems looks like, you would have to go to 30 different sources to do it, but now you have it all in one place here. And if you want to know more about the methods and the background of the dashboard, let's say you want to know more about what Quinn has just walked you through, you can always go to these about pages and they give you a kind of detailed overview. Here you have the different components of the food systems with the drivers and the outcomes. And you can also obviously see more about the dashboard itself. What were the how was it created? What are the methods behind it? And all of this background information is just available at your fingertips if you want it and if you want to go a bit deeper. But what we'll do now is let's actually look at the functions. So when you go to this homepage by clicking on the logo, you see you have 3 different buckets you can explore. Let's look at the country profiles. This is kind of a thorough breakdown by country or region. Actually, you have both options here. And it'll give you sort of a full view of indicators across a given country. Now, for the purpose of example, does anyone have a suggestion for a country?
Nigeria.
Great. Let's do Nigeria. Thanks. So I click on Nigeria here, and I'm given an overview of all of these food systems components here, the food supply chains, food environments. I can sort of click through them and see drafts and charts pertaining to these indicators under these food systems components. And it can show you a variety of comparisons. So let's go to diets and nutrition and maybe look at food security. Right. So it'll give you a comparison of Nigeria as it relates to its region, Western Africa, with comparison to a global average here. And this can be very useful if you want to sort of put things into context and understand, okay, how is a country doing in relation to its neighbors, as well as the world at large. There's also some neat charts here that show you target values and limit values. This is a really good example here where we see the recommended intake amounts for food groups as per the World Health Organization. So here, estimated per capita intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, and milk. We see Nigeria. We know that the last data was from 2017. We see the source immediately. And again, we've got this comparison to the region and the world. Here we have this target value that I was just talking about, kind of showing you, okay, not just what is the intake of fruits, vegetables, and other food groups in Nigeria, but how does it relate to what the WHO has established as a target value. If I want to see this a bit bigger, I can just enlarge it here and sort of, look at each of the pieces in detail. And I can also see what this is about. So maybe I don't understand where these target values come from. I click on this handy eye feature here, and it tells me more about this indicator, sort of where is it derived from, how is it defined, and where do I go if I want the source. We also see, if we're looking at healthy foods, let's look at the flip side. So we see unhealthy foods here, consumption of red meat, processed meat, sugar sweetened beverages, sodium, and we see limit values, also as defined by the WHO, with all of the comparisons that we had prior. So all of these functionalities are available across different parts of the food system. For many of them, you have these comparisons across region and global. And then you also have the drivers that you can use to understand the context of the country a little bit better and layer your understanding of the other indicators. If you want, you can download one of these figures and use it for something. It'll automatically give you the source and all the information you need. Or let's say you want the full view of a country and you want to download a report and have it all available to you. You can do that functionality as well. Sometimes it takes a couple seconds, but it'll print out a clean report for you that sort of breaks down all of the indicators you see on that page and lets you share them easily. So I'll just show you what that looks like quickly. There you go. So what you've seen here on this site, you can have in the form of a report that's clean and ready to share. Next up, I want to show you all another functionality of the food systems dashboard. We just did a deep dive into Nigeria as a country, but what if we want to compare Nigeria to other countries? Or what if we want to see how the whole world is doing on a given indicator? This is what this compare and analyze feature here is for. So I go to the home page by clicking on the logo up here, and I click compare and analyze, and it will show me a map. And here I can look at different indicators, the same 1, 2, 3, 4 components of the food system with outcomes as well as the drivers here. In addition to seeing the map the way you see it here, I can also give myself a reminder of the World Bank income classification. So how does income, what are the 4 quartiles of income classification as defined by the World Bank? And we also have a food systems typology that is available here. This is another way to look at countries. So instead of just looking at income, you look at a multitude of factors now categorized under rural and traditional countries as defined by their food system, informal and expanding food systems, emerging and diversifying food systems, modernizing and formalizing, industrialized and consolidated. So it just gives you an additional layer sort of information if you want to look beyond just the income. Here, let's see how we can look across subpopulations. So an indicator we might want to look at is, sure, why not? Let's try early initiation of breastfeeding here. And let's say I want to look just at the urban sort of populations here. I click urban. I can do the same for rural, sort of understand how these different demographics break up. And then I can also look at income quintiles here, from richest to poorest, and understand a little bit more nuance in the data. I can also look at my data by income classification or food systems type. I'll show you what I mean by this. So let's select adult obesity. It'll be simple to look at. And let's try to understand how adult obesity looks like, but by food systems type. So here I can actually look at the different food systems types we talked about before and see, a useful gradient across this food systems type of adult obesity. How prevalent is it across this food systems type of, here I've selected informal and expanding. One more that we can look at is different ways to visualize the data aside from the map. So maybe let's see vegetable yield. Let's go to our food supply chain, look at the production systems and inputs, and select vegetable yield. Here we go. And I want to see this ranked across all countries. I want to see what countries produce the most vegetables. I can click here on this rank chart and get sort of a quick ranking of all countries. And you'll see the dots here that are categorizing by industrial consolidated, all the different food system types we talked about. So there's many other functionalities in the food systems dashboard. I won't have time to show you all of them today. There's, the bubble chart. You can sort of look at data in 3 dimensions, and there's several other visualizations here based on what you're looking for. So I'll stop sharing now, but I hope that gives you a good sneak peek of the dashboard itself. In just a moment, you'll actually get to test it out yourself and explore and navigate the site. But for the time being, I'll actually pass the mic to Alexa, who is going to give you a sneak peek to a new functionality of the dashboard. So take it away, Alexa.
Christina, before you do that, it looks like we have one person with a hand raised. Neville,
okay.
did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much it was something very sensitive. With regards to the presentation you just made, if you want to work like on a particular area, region, like for example, Sub-Saharan Africa, how is it possible you get just the map of that area without like, because it's like when you go to, for example, when you went for vegetable production, it was giving global, the global statistics. Can you do like a regional, for example, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Horn of Africa? Can you pick out just the map of that area from the database?
Yeah, that's a good question. And someone can also jump in if I don't answer it properly, but you can manipulate the map actually and sort of zoom in on parts of it and yeah, sort of give yourself a clear view of a certain region if you want. And you can also look at the profile of a region through the country profile functionality, but just selecting the region that you're interested in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, I think that like what Christina said, and we do have some regional estimates in the dashboard. So you could see like what's the average. I think it's a population weighted average for Sub-Saharan Africa. I don't know, we don't yet have a way though to kind of just filter everything else out, like, you know, delete the other parts of the map and like just look at you know, the within Sub-Saharan Africa variation, the way that we have for like income groups or the food systems typology. And that's a really interesting comment to make. And, you know, we could still think about how to incorporate those types of things because this is still a work in progress, this dashboard.
Okay, great. Yeah, then we'll move to Alexa, and we'll also continue to, you can continue to put your questions in the chat, and we'll come to back to these in the Q&A, also the ones we don't address yet in the chat. Yeah, Alexa.
So as Christina and Quinn have mentioned, that the current dashboard does a very good job of describing the food systems, but after we launched the dashboard, a subset of the food systems dashboard team really wanted to work on the other components of our tagline, which was, you know, describe, diagnose, and decide. And so we needed to first figure out how could we diagnose food systems? How can we show in a very simple way that, you know, how food systems are performing? Because right now the dashboard has over 200 indicators. It's a lot of information, and, you know, we needed to identify indicators that had clear directionality. So, you know, either high was good or low was good, and that they would be appropriate for most countries globally in order to come up with this food systems diagnosis. And so what I'm going to be presenting right now is actually work that we've done over the last, I think, almost 2 years. And very excitingly, a paper should be published in the next month, I believe, on the methodology behind the indicators that we selected and the cutoffs that we selected as well for each of these indicators. And so here we have a Shiny app dashboard looking at this diagnose function, and it will eventually be incorporated into the larger dashboard. And so, for example, here, and we're going to share the link with everyone as well during the exercises, but you can select a country. So for example, I have Nigeria selected because that's what Christina was presenting on earlier. And then you get these 39 indicators that we've selected. And you can see there's, you know, green, which means we've identified as an unlikely challenge area for Nigeria's food system. Yellow indicates a potential challenge area, and then red indicates a likely challenge area. And so you can also select other countries, and it will change based on the country's data in the dashboard. And so all of these indicators are in the dashboard or will be included in the dashboard very shortly. And in this next tab, we have listed in more detail all of the indicators, the source, the year, the number of countries we have data for, and then the cutoffs that we use to identify the unlikely challenge areas, potential challenge areas, and likely challenge areas. And then here at the bottom, based on, and this is still very much a work in progress, this decide function, but we've linked this data to potential policy actions as well. And so underneath this visual here, you can see, you know, potential policy actions that may improve some of these indicators. And so this will be a tool that we will be using in the group exercises to identify potential challenge areas or unlikely challenge areas in the outcomes. So the outcome variables are the nutrition outcomes and the environmental outcomes. Questions? And that was just, it was a very quick presentation, and you guys will have the opportunity to explore and use this tool for each country in the different working groups.
Great, super. Thanks very much, Alexa. And I'll take over with sharing then. And it's great that many questions are also popping up in the chat, and we are sure that also when we give you a bit of time to explore together, you will have more questions, and maybe some of your questions you will find also yourself. So we have set this up now that we will go to exploratory exercise using the dashboard and using this new function of the dashboard that Alexa gave you a sneak preview of, because so we move now to the breakout groups. We will split you in breakout groups, and you will be assigned to a breakout group with a specific country focus, and if you are asked to focus on a challenge area or a likely success area of that country. And I will walk you through the different steps and how that looks like, where you can enter the dashboard and the Diagnose Decide tool for that. So the exercise is to shortly introduce yourself to each other. So you also connected and know who you are with. And then step one is to identify for the country that you are assigned to a challenge or success area, depending on the assignment, in the food system outcomes, and to select one of these to focus the exercise on. And this is supported by the Diagnose Decide tool. And then in a second step, to do an exploratory detective work on potential underlying related factors for that challenge or success area using the food systems dashboard, particularly the country profile and the compare and analyze functions of the dashboard. And then we made this Jamboard where you can put the notes, and that also guides you through the exercise. So this is the exercise. I will now just repeat that, but then visualize it, what it looks like when you go in. So you will be in one of these country groups, so in the Kenya country group or the Bangladesh country group, and you will be in the subgroup of the Kenya Success Group or the Kenya Challenge Group, and the Bangladesh Success Group or the Bangladesh Challenge Group. So if you are in the challenge group, we are asking you to explore particular challenge areas. If you are in the success group, we ask you to explore particular success areas. And we're doing this really to kind of as an exploratory exercise and to get you a bit familiar with these tools. So we ask them to identify what are kind of the challenge areas or what are the success areas for your countries based on this tool, and the link will also be put in the chat, and then to select one to focus this exercise on. But going through it, you realize, of course, that there are multiple, and some of these might be connected also, and we'll come back to this. But for this exercise, we ask you just to focus for example, the Kenya Success Group, to focus on one of the green ones. Select one of those. For the Kenya Challenge Group, to focus on one of the red ones, and it can be nutrition or an environmental one. So you select one that you want to focus on, and in the meantime, you get a bit familiar already with this tool. And then in step 2, you explore potential underlying factors that might be connected, might be related to this kind of challenge, while you explore the country profile and the compare and analyze function in the dashboard. And so we are asked to identify 3 to 4 potential underlying or related factors to that challenge area or success area. Now, to facilitate that, we have set up a Jamboard where you can easily work with sticky notes, and we prepared kind of the sticky notes. So you put here the challenge area, and you put here kind of the potential underlying factors. So that's kind of the this kind of first exercise, and for the Jamboard, I'll just also show you. You go to the slide of your country. So when you enter it, you see, and here with this one, you can go to your relevant country. Group 1, Kenya challenge area. Group 2, Kenya success area. And that you can ignore this one. This is for the second exercise. And then group 3, Bangladesh challenge area. Group 4, Bangladesh success area. And so you will be in the breakout group in one of these groups. And then the idea is to go through this exercise. So to shortly introduce yourself, then to identify a challenge area to focus on, and then to do exploratory detective work on potential underlying related factors using the dashboard. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We will also pop into the different groups to help support this exercise. And so we'll give 20 minutes for this. Okay, fantastic. Welcome back. So you had kind of some initial time to explore the different tools, and we saw things popping up on the Jamboard. So that's great. And it will continue in the second part of the exercise. We'll come back also further to that. But now we have some time for open questions and answers, and I'll give the word to Katja to facilitate that.
Thank you, Rosalind. So we'd like to invite you to ask questions or share reflections, maybe on the initial exploration of the dashboard. Comments and feedback are also welcome. So the floor is yours. Please raise your hand, or if you prefer, you can also add your comments in the chat box. And if you have a question for a specific speaker, please just mention their name before asking your question. So I'll be looking at hands raised.
Or also any reflections you had or feedback on the exercise or the process or the tools. Feel free. Just want to hear from you on how it all went.
Exactly. We always welcome any feedback that you may have on the food systems dashboard. Oh, I see that Zachary Park has his hand raised. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone. I was with a few people in the Bangladesh unlikely challenges group. And we were reflecting on some of the production level indicators, specifically the biodiversity ones. And it was interesting kind of to use the indicators as like a discussion point. You know, we were brainstorming different reasons why that indicator might be an unlikely challenge. What are some of the things we know about the country context that contribute to that? And then specifically for biodiversity, we were thinking about different production systems that we know, food production systems that we know to be popular in Bangladesh, and how those might, contribute to the green bar that we saw. But we also talked about some things that either are left out of the equation, or really complicated to include, and trade was one that was brought up, and we're having kind of a discussion about, maybe where to stop, and how to effectively integrate that in. So yeah, we had a really nice time talking with each other about it.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and reflections. Anyone else wants to share? Okay, I see a comment on the chat box that says the cutoffs for indicators may change over time. That's correct. For example, for long-term average values for climate-related variables and for vulnerable populations globally. Does any one of the speakers also want to maybe provide some reflections on this comment and question?
I could reflect on this and how we've done this process of trying to determine how to use the indicators for diagnosis over the last couple of years. And it is a challenge. most indicators do not have published values already saying that, X value means it's a public health challenge or an environmental challenge, or even recommendations in terms of target values. So a few indicators do have that. And where they do, we've used those. But where they don't, we've actually just used comparison between countries. So looking at the distribution of how countries, rank in terms of each indicator, and binning the ones that where, they have, say, like greenhouse emissions, maybe the highest emitting countries would be the most likely challenged countries, whereas the lowest emitting countries would be the least likely, for an example. So many indicators are based on that kind of relative performance. And this is really a first draft. So this, what Alexa showed, is a tool that's using this. And she mentioned the paper that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. It's not the end all be all of exactly what cutoffs should definitely be. But it's like, how can we get started? How can we start the conversation? Because like Quinn mentioned earlier, it's really hard to start the conversation with just a bunch of data and not being able to interpret that data in terms of what it's telling us. So at least now we can sort of start this conversation of, compared to other countries, this country is showing up as a, red, like likely challenge. Let's talk about that. Maybe it is in reality, maybe it's not. Maybe it's capturing factors that are, not so easy to see, like trade. So it's really the start of a discussion, and just having something tangible to reflect on in terms of what policy actions may be useful towards better outcomes. So yeah, we look forward, if you have feedback, we're interested in feedback on cutoffs, any literature that we might have missed that's out there in terms of appropriate cutoffs, and they can continuously be improved.
Great, thanks a lot, Anna. And in terms of interest of time, we'll move on, but keep your good questions and comments or any reflections or suggestions coming in the chat. We will capture all of that, and we'll have more discussion also later. But now I'll give the word to Heather, who will give an introduction to the Innovative Food System Solutions portal and its complementarity to the Food Systems Dashboard.
That was really interesting to listen to. And I think the transition into the Innovative Food System Solution portal, I just want you to sort of keep in mind that what you've just come from, you've been thinking about both successes, but also challenges in nutrition, environmental health, food environment for these different country contexts. And the IFSS portal picks up a bit there and was really envisioned to help respond to demands or demand-based need to explore real actionable solutions to help address these challenges and learn from successes taking place in different parts of the world, helping different kinds of food system actors across the food system to take ideas towards action for impact, and sort of getting into the concrete real world solutions or ideas in the pipeline that are turning into solutions. So I will, with that, sort of shift into the IFSS portal a bit. And again, this was the Innovative Food System Solutions portal, is a bit of a mouthful, so we call it the IFSS portal. And the idea is really to have an open access, collaborative initiative that encourages people to co-create food systems change to ensure both human and planetary health in more equitable ways. So dietary and nutrition health, as well as planetary and environmental health in more equitable ways. And really briefly, we launched in 2021. It was an initiative that came out of a whole series of other projects prior to that were, and a bunch of parallel initiatives sort of barreling into the year of 2021 and the year of the UN Food System Summit and their summits. And we focused on making innovative solutions as well as other learning and training and co-learning resources more visible and accessible to those looking to solve problems. We focused on moving beyond silver bullets and thinking about systems approaches and cross-pollination between actors and peoples, while also focusing on sort of bundles of innovations and accelerators and boosters that might help take innovations further faster, sort of thinking about this 2030 time horizon of the UN SDG goals. We really approach this from the point of view of strengthening collaborations and supporting the more equitable participation from people around the world. So our portal and this initiative was launched out of a number of collaborations with all of the partners that you see across the bottom. And a lot of the content was originally sourced from these partners and various research and advocacy work that was going on amongst these partners, but it's also a crowdsourced platform, meaning that you are invited, anyone is invited to submit new ideas, submit new solutions, submit comments, suggestions, and really join into this as an initiative. Again, just that the portal takes a food systems thinking approach to innovative solutions, focusing sort of from the demand, from the need, and finding solutions, as opposed to opening a toolbox and then looking for problems to solve with those tools. The approach was developed along sort of these three major criteria axes: social, economic, and environmental. And we really hope that the way that the portal is designed and the work that we do with it and the co-learning that goes on around the actors in the IFSS portal community really take on these multiple sustainability dimensions. So impacts of solutions on nutrition, on equity, and on the environment. And again, this focus on multiple solutions and synergies, as well as accelerators or sort of essential elements or key factors to help boost taking solutions to scale. So these are the questions that the portal was really developed around. And these are those criteria areas. I'll go into these more in detail when we take a look into the portal, but this is sort of the enhancing diets and nutrition and the planetary health, environmental health, as well as leapfrogging and equity. And then these are these essential elements. This came out of, in part, work done by Mario Herrero's research group and others at the time. It was at the CSIRO, now at Cornell, thinking about these sort of accelerators or boosting factors. We've added a few more after feedback from multiple different collaborative efforts over the last year and a half, and we're still working with Mario's group and the Wild Futures group to sort of think about how these get used in moving solutions towards action. And again, when we talk about leapfrogging, originally the portal was sort of envisioned to help capture and source outliers or really disruptive solutions that have really high potential to be game changers, to change business as usual. And it's not to say that all of the solutions that are in the portal database are that in and of themselves, but perhaps there's a solution that's been used somewhere else that's now going to be taken up in a new or innovative way, or being used in a different place by different actors, or in a synergy with other solutions in a creative way. So, so the idea here is just to really push ourselves to not try to solve the same problems with the same thinking, but to think outside the box and in that way. So the portal is structured with a lot of different components and resources, and we won't have time today to go into all of these. This is just sort of because I think you'll have access to this slide deck, or at least the recording afterwards, to capture this on one screen. But the idea is that there's a database of solutions. There's a space for tools and resources to move towards action. There's a community. This piece is new that we're kind of adding into the 2022-2023 timeline to try to figure out how to help innovators, as well as funders and investors and researchers and people, working in different spaces to connect to each other around interests. There's a resource area there for funding and to find a database of investors and donors, if the idea to connect new inventors or small businesses with groups looking to invest in solutions and taking those to scale. And then there's also been a series of innovation challenges and events that we've sort of helped to host and support in different ways with process. So with that, I'm going to jump over to the IFSS portal, and I think we'll throw the link in the chat as well. But this is what, and I hope this is still the right size for everyone to be seeing on the presenting, if that works. So this is the landing page of the portal. As I mentioned, there's sort of these 6 elements. The 6th one that was not on the previous slide is an area of the portal where we really highlight and focus on supporting youth engagement in food system transformation. And we've been working with several youth-led movements over the last year to help engage those voices in meaningful ways and really gather input and create space for different youth-led initiatives to find resources to build skills, but also to engage in co-learning with us. So not just sort of one-way mentorships, but really sharing their input about what's going on, where they're working, and what their experience is in the food system from where they sit. So I think for the purposes of today and time, I'm going to show you mostly our solutions database. And as I said, this was a database that was pulled together from a range of parallel initiatives that were sourcing innovations going into the end of 2021. And so we did a large mapping exercise, and we captured about 85 unique solutions as a solution concept. And we put them up into the portal, and then working with collaborators, we extended that even further. So the portal launched in 2021 with about just under 100 solutions, and there's 108 that you can see have been published here, and there's about 20 more in the pipeline that are being published this week and next that have come from some innovation challenges, which is a really neat way that we've been able to help sort of crowdsource new ideas and pull some new ideas and new thoughts in here. But really what this is a large database of solutions that can be searched by keyword or across these multiple criteria. So this is supply chain segment, including also some cross-cutting elements, waste, regulatory aspects, financial aspects, education, outreach, and empowerment aspects. So not just farm to fork, but cross-cutting ways of looking at the food supply chain and the food environment. Maturity level, whether things are ideas or prototypes, gaining traction, moving to scale mainstream. You can certainly search by country. You can search by any of those 12 criteria that we referenced before around nutrition or environmental health. SDG target is one that was easy to pull in. It's a common language that a lot of food system actors speak across the space, and other primary users. And there's a long list here, but so again, this was responding to the demand. Based on how you're coming in and what you're looking for, you can choose to engage with this database in different ways. And I'll just jump into, I'll show one quick example here. So let's say we pull a moving to scale, and we want to look at something like food quality. And just to point out, all of these are defined in the glossary, which is up here. You can take a look into the glossary. So what does food quality mean? And this was partners at GAIN helped us define these terms in this way, this criteria, and through the Alliance of Biodiversity and SIA, we also worked with developing the environmental criteria. And I think I'll also pull in, let's just say reducing biodiversity loss, and you would search through here and you come to a range of solutions. So in this case, 19 solutions popped up, and I'm going to just quickly jump into one. So this solution is designed not to highlight a specific project or a specific product or a specific technology, but a solution as a concept. So the concept is improvements in local food market infrastructure. And the way that the portal defines these concrete solutions is there's a description of the solution, and this is a narrative. There's impact statements around dietary impact, planetary impact, equity impact, and then also a section for main concerns. The solutions are all tagged, and you can see these tags over on the right, and this is what feeds into those filters. And there's also examples of real world solutions. So these could be products, these could be projects, these could be case by country filter cases where this type of solution has been implemented. And so the idea is to point you back out of the portal to learn more about those specific examples. Sometimes there are additional resources, scientific papers, case studies, business models. And then there's also, and I'll get into this in just a second, but there's also a way to highlight directly on each solution whether or not anyone has taken this solution and worked with it through one of the many tools that we have highlighted on the portal, which is a backcasting process to help sort of as a next step take a solution towards action by doing some future forecasting and trying to identify key steps and barriers and possibly other solutions that would make this solution have major impact going forward by the 2030 time horizon. And so with that, I'll just, there's a range of other resources and guides that you can find under the Moving to Action section, and just a long list here of a lot of things that would have different appeal to different kinds of people coming in to find stuff, as well as our backcasting tool, which actually lets you play online. You can download a worksheet or you can build a map online, and of what that ends up looking like is, and we highlight them in this gallery of pathway maps just to help share and inspire ideas. But so for that local food market infrastructure improvement, this was a group in Tanzania that took that solution and implemented it in Tanzania. And so they outlined sort of what did they do first, what were the barriers that they came across, what needed to happen, who needed to be brought in to work on that. So I think I will stop there. Yeah, for the portal tour, and everyone will have the link there to explore a bit. And I'm going to pass the word to my colleague Françoise. Françoise, who is going to tell us a little bit about sort of connecting these complementarities.
Thank you, Heather. Hi, everyone. I'm Françoise. I'm working with the IFSS portal team, and I'm also a master's student. And so there are many synergies between the FSD42 policies and actions and our IFSS solutions. And so this research project that I did this past 6 months really assessed how the IFSS portal could provide a way to identify this need from moving to recommendation to action. And so essentially I tested how to bridge these complementaries between the FSD actions and impact focus areas and made them more country and context specific based on the food system solutions Heather just showed on the IFSS portal. So Heather, next slide. Some of these steps included incorporating the food system dashboard taxonomies such as keywords and target users into our IFSS portal database structure. This also included updating our solution profiles with these taxonomies, and then really co-learning and exploring with the team at the food systems dashboard, our IFSS team, and then at Wageningen and other stakeholders on how the portal could really help support this identification of solution bundles or packages of solutions for a specific country focus area with a specific aim or vision. And so in the next slide, you can see here, this is an example of the FSD action number 42 and how it was mapped to our portal taxonomies. And so I assigned terms from our combined IFSS portal and FSD taxonomies and created these parallel profiles, which then generated 2 different packages of solutions. And so if you can see on the next slide, here are 2 solution bundles. So I selected the country Ethiopia as it launched its food-based dietary guidelines and nicely mapped to action number 42. And these solution bundles was this generic solution bundle that came out of this exercise. And so from this package of solutions, I was able to ground truth a more realistic package of how these solutions could complement Ethiopia's current target objectives. So for instance, identifying the solutions that complemented the current policy objectives, whereas solutions that were more outliers or game changers, and then also solutions that just didn't make sense to the specific country and context focus area. So I'll stop here for the sake of time and pass it on back to Roslyn.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so we'll we'll welcome further questions also in the chat, and then have some more time at the end also. But yeah, thanks very much, Heather and François. So we'll move now in the exploratory exercise 2, and this is moving from kind of the challenge or the success unlikely challenge area to also actions related to that areas and solutions. So if you go to the next slide, so we'll break back into the breakout groups. And now the exercise is actually to explore relevant policies and innovative solutions that might maybe be helpful to address your previous selected challenge area, or to help maintain and boost your success area. Often when we maybe think, it's green, we don't need to care about it, but it often also requires explicit policies and actions to make sure that it remains green or moving further in the right direction. So, and here we would like to suggest to use the FSD Diagnose the Site tool again. So where, like François showed, you can identify kind of policies, and the EFSS portal, where you can search innovative solutions for certain criteria linked to your need or your demand. We will start with this exercise and do this for 10 minutes. The idea then is that we merge the two groups of the two country of the country, and that you then discuss actually your findings and see if you have potential synergies maybe, or trade-offs between the two different things and policies and actions that you identified, as well as kind of the challenge and success area, if there's maybe a connection between them. We will see, yeah, I think we can still do it, but we might have a little bit less time for each of them. And this, to re-emphasize again, this is really kind of an exploratory exercise, and to show you what type of discussions it can trigger and what kind of exploratory analysis you can do, combining the food systems dashboard with the IFSS portal. So if you go to the next slide, just to restate, so to identify potential relevant policies, you can go again back to that Diagnose the Site tool that Alexa showed. And then as a second step, you can identify relevant innovative solutions through the IFSS portal, particularly through the Explore Solution function. And there you can then type in specific criteria or keywords, or search to one of the filters. And then you can remove on the Jamboard to here to add, oh, if you go back, here there you can put what you find here in the sticky notes, the yellow and the green sticky notes. And then we might have still 5 minutes to combine, or if not, we just come back in plenary, depending a bit how it goes as time moves fast. So, but if there are any questions, all the related links are in the chat, and so we break up again in the breakout groups. Okay, great. Welcome back, everyone. The time is a little bit too short to do our ambitious second step, where the two groups would then come together and then also discuss potential synergies, trade-offs, and how different solutions might work or might not work together. But this was also just kind of to give you a sense of the type of discussions that these type of exercises and using the portal with the food system dashboard can trigger, and to explore a bit the type of things you can do with it. So thanks a lot for all the discussions. I saw there were really good discussions going on. So we really welcome all the feedback and reflections on that. As noted, both efforts are continued processes that are set up to iteratively improve and build upon the demand that is there for how to use them and how to further improve the functionality. So we'll take 5 minutes to see if there are any other questions, reflections, and comments that you would like to share before we close with a quick other Menti, but where we will also open for any other questions. And so, yeah, so please.
Hi, everyone. This is Morad Morsi from Intake. I'm sorry I was unable to find the raise my hand function. This is just me, my ignorance. Sorry about that.
No worries. No
worries. Go ahead.
So I wanted to thank you so much for this lab. I learned a ton. I'm impressed both by the food systems dashboard, initiative, and also by the IFSS. Françoise happened to be in the breakout room, and I was telling her I just can only imagine the amount of the text that the team had to go through just to be able to make that information available. And she was saying that it was a lot of fun. But I also told her you can also tell us that basically you pulled half of your hair out. But the product, I mean, the end product is really very good. And now Pamela was with us also in the breakout room, and she was saying it's fantastic to be able to just stand on the shoulder of giants and not have to reinvent the wheel. So yeah, thank you so much. So the one quick comment I had is I need to basically look at this more carefully, but always when implementing solutions and interventions, the one thing I'm always on the lookout for is like the lessons learned from other teams and the barriers to implementation. And so I don't know if this is already something that's coming out very clearly, both in the suggestions for the policy solutions on the dashboard or on the IFSS, but it's something that will be, I think, extremely useful.
Thank you. This is a very good question. Heather, do you like to maybe answer this?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for that input back to us. It's really nice to hear positive feedback. It's great to hear all feedback, but it has been a lot of work with many people contributing, including a youth research team with a number of different students at different universities over, in different sort of groups over the last year that have also been adding and sort of sourcing solutions and developing these solution profiles. So it's a really exciting effort to be part of. In terms of capturing main concerns and lessons learned on the portal, at least we try to capture that in 3 ways. On each solution profile, there's a main concern section, and we have captured what was sort of the initial input that we found, or that was contributed by someone else that we may have added a little to or left as it was as narrative text. So you can take a look at that, and certainly we're very open to all input and suggestions and improvements on solution profiles. The second place is in the pathway map gallery for solutions that people have worked with, moving from just the solution as an idea towards either having implemented a solution somewhere and sort of documenting how they did that, or projecting forward how they would do that. We capture barriers and possible resolutions or strategies to those barriers. And I think that's another sort of main concern or lessons learned area that's really interesting. And the third place is just in some of the resources on the portal. There are some publications and documents and case studies that capture a little bit of that, but we haven't, as the portal, sort of pulled out generalizable main concerns or searchable main concerns yet, but that would be really exciting to include. But so that's my input on that.
Thank you, Heather. And we have one last question because we don't have that much time. Neville Donwy, please.
Okay, thank you so much. First, it was an amazing presentation, something very interesting. It's a follow-up to a question I already asked. I'm trying to ask again now. How are we going to be able to access specific regions, or are you still going to make that a possibility where, like, because it's sometimes it's really voluminous working on looking at the globe or a particular continent. So how can we get to a situation where we can get those sub-regional areas, like you can want to work on a particular region which is having a lot of food system issues. So how can we extract that particular area from the map? I mean, I still want to put this out there so you can really work on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to clarify, your question is more on the food systems dashboard than on the portal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe just for in the interest of time, I can follow up by email and really show you. We can show you where you can find all the different regions and find the information. Is there anyone else in the team who wants to add something?
No, I mean, I do think it's something we can think about more, you know, like I think what Neville's kind of getting at is almost like exploring regions the same way that we look at the income groups and typologies, where we can really zero in on, you know, a specific region and look at, you know, within that region, you know, comparing countries, and, you know, maybe could also lead to kind of solutions that span borders. So we'll probably talk about that maybe in our dashboard team and how we could think about it for the future.
Yeah, and we're currently in the process of redesigning the dashboard, so this is also great input for us. So thank you for that comment, but also happy to send you some resources on what is available currently. So I'm gonna hand it over to Rosalind for some final comments and some feedback from you.
Thanks very much, Katja, and thanks very much, everyone. If you can just stay a few more minutes with us, that will be very helpful to capture any further feedback and thoughts. So we just want to go back to this Menti here. And then you will see the questions there. So we want to capture also your perspective on what do you find most useful of the food systems dashboard, and you can choose multiple options there. So you can go back to the Menti. I think it can be put in the chat there, the link to the Menti, or you can just go to menti.com and put this code here. So we'll see we are seeing to have all types of food systems data together in one place and to explore likely challenge and success areas is kind of some of the top priorities use functions. If there are any other functions that you see, you can also always put them in the chat or flag them to you or something that you would particularly like the portal to do. Yeah. Okay, great. So it's good to have your insights on that. See these two popping up. Then also the same question for the innovative food system solutions. What do you find most useful from your perspective for the innovative food system solutions portal? And here also you can choose multiple options. We're seeing here to explore existing innovative solutions for food system change as the kind of the winning function, to connect with others, to explore and develop pathways to action. This links to the question also of the lessons learned. Yes, and okay, great. Great to see some of the patterns coming up. And then just one last question, and we will leave this open on the Menti, so you can add your questions, comments, and reflections also after this session closed. If you have any other questions, comments, or reflections for the food systems dashboard and the innovative food system solution portal, please share them here. We will also provide the feedback on this from the session. So we will leave this open. And then I just want to thank everyone, the whole team of the food system dashboard and the EFSS, as well as the ANH team. Thank you very much, and all of you for participants for your contributions and enthusiastic engagement. So yeah, I'll give it back to Elena now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and a big round of applause to our facilitators from this session. This was really great. I encourage you all to reflect on this session and join us for some learning labs during the rest of the week, as well as during our research conference next week. The program for the rest of the conference is available on the ANH Academy website.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.